How many times are you gonna go back to that site? How many times are you gonna click on that goofy video? How many times are you gonna go back to Insta and look at that IG model? Shoot, she may not even be real. She may be AI generated. Like, I know you be seeing those type of like ads on like TikTok or Insta talking about make your own AI girlfriend. Like, the fuck? Like, the more I see this type of stuff, the more I'm like, dang, like low-key society is going downhill. But I mean, it's not really our fault, right? Because as humans, we want to experience the most time of our lives, right? We want to experience the most pleasure we can get in our lives. And so we go to this instant gratificational pleasure. We go to the hub. We go on OF. Like, why do you think like OF content creators literally make millions of dollars, right? Those millions of dollars aren't coming from one person. It's coming from millions of people, down bad people. Just like I was at one point. Like, I was literally going on these sites every single day because I was trying to fulfill that void in my heart with temporary pleasure. But why is it every single time that you do it, you feel bad, you feel guilty, you feel like you committed a crime? Because you did, my boy, and that crime is a sin. The sin is the crime. And so what you're doing right now is committing that crime because you're going against God's law, God's nature. Because God, He wants a loving and lasting relationship for you, right? He wants you to experience that love, that intimacy. But how can you experience that love and intimacy if you're literally in your dark, crusty room, alone in your bed, literally releasing your life force energy to random pixels on a screen, to people that don't even know you exist? And so every single time you do it, you may tell yourself that this is the last time, I'm never gonna do this again. But then the next day, you bust a quick one, a quickie, just to get it over with. And so you tell yourself over and over and over that you're gonna quit this addiction, but you can't, because it's an addiction. It's a habit that you built up over time. This habit has been building up. It's been gaining motion for years and years and years. And so now, obviously, when you try to stop it the next day, you can't. It's just gonna run right through you because it's already gained enough motion to literally just run past you. And so this is why it's hard to actually quit this type of content, to actually stop giving into lust and busting, because you've already allowed this habit to overtake your life for years and years and years. You've been doing it behind closed doors. Like, why? Like, if this habit is so normal, why don't you just go tell your parents every time you do it? Or why don't you just leave the door open for anyone to walk in while you're doing it? Like if it was that normal, why shouldn't everyone you know that you're doing it? Because obviously it's something you shouldn't be doing. It's obviously going against God's law, God's nature. Trust me, I used to be one of these people. I was literally going on these sites every single day, literally busting gallons, literally depleting my life force energy. But every time you do this type of stuff, like, you should ask yourself, what could you be doing better with your time? What is something other than this goofy, degenerate habit that you could be doing at this very moment? Because I know, like, every single time you do this type of activity, you are literally giving your potential to instant gratification. And so you're allowing the enemy to infiltrate your mind. And the enemy is giving you this pleasure. And so now that you're thinking, okay, I'm getting this pleasure, right? Like, it's a win-win. No, my boy, it's a loss-loss. Because at the end of the day, you're just gonna go back, just like any other like drug or drug addict, alcoholic. They're gonna go back to that can, that little blunt. They'll go back to that and do it again and again and again and again. And it's never gonna really fulfill or satisfy them. And so realistically, you're just at a loss because you're trying to fulfill your heart with that temporary pleasure. And what humans long for, like, I'm not gonna lie, like 99% of the people that watch this type of content, they want a loving and lasting relationship. And so they're obviously trying to fill that void with this content. But you gotta realize, like, even the people that you're watching, even the people that you're busting to, low-key have a soul, a life of their own. And so they may have done some choices that led them down to that path, but they're gonna ultimately regret it. Because you could literally watch, like, there's literally hundreds of videos of literally like interviews of like the stars or like the models that these people, like, they make this their career, right? But after that, they regret it. They low-key regret it. They low-key, like, they literally tell the world, like, you can literally see these videos, like, Lana Rhodes, whatever. Like, I don't even know. Like, her life is literally, like, looking at her now, like, you could just tell, like, yeah, like, she went down the wrong path. And, you know, I hope that she finds God. I hope that she actually can experience the love of Jesus. But, like, man, it's hard. It's hard when you've led so many people into temptation. And you've led yourself into temptation, along with millions of others. But you can also look at the video that I made. What was it, Nala Fitness? Yeah, she just gave her life to Christ. So, hey, glory to that. Like, that's just like, that's God's work right there. That's God working through and in her life. And so it's not impossible to actually accept God, to accept Jesus. But if you continue to make this lust that you bust to your God, then obviously you're basically putting this pleasure at a pedestal above God. And so how can you actually grow your relationship with God if this is above God? If this type of pleasure is above God? Because you're giving more time, you're giving more energy, you're giving more of your day towards this pleasure that it's not even benefiting you. Besides, like, ruining your dopamine receptors, it's not even benefiting you. But yet you still do it. And just like the dog returning to his vomit, a fool will return to his sin. Now this basically means that the fool that returns to his sin, basically the fool doesn't have a relationship with God. So obviously he's going to go back into his sin, back into his worldly ways, just like the dog to his vomit. And so every time you watch this nasty, goofy, instant gratificational, GMO, stinky content, you are basically returning back into that sin. And so this is basically meaning that you keep going back into that sin, back to that vomit, even though you know that stuff is gross, even though you know that that's something you shouldn't be doing, and you're not even respecting yourself to avoid it. You're just going back to it. And so obviously, like, how can God bless you with a relationship? How do you even tell yourself that you deserve a relationship or to love someone else when you don't even love yourself? Like, you don't even love yourself to avoid this nasty content. Like, how do you expect for someone else to love you if you don't even love yourself? And you see, that self-love comes from God. God gives you that love. God's love is essentially eternal, right? Like, literally in the Bible it says there is peace, love, and joy, but the greatest of them all is love. And so God's love is so, like, I can't even abundant, right? It's so abundant. But yet so many people are astray from it because they choose the worldly desires. They choose to follow Satan. They choose to follow his agenda. And so obviously they're going to blame God. They're going to be like, God, why is my life so miserable? Like, I have all this depression, anxiety, I'm addicted to the hub, and I'm going to blame God for that. But you don't even realize that you're being tricked by the enemy. And that is why I preach the message of nofap. Because you got to retain for gains. You got to abstain from lust or give in and bust. The choice is yours. So just because you went like 20 days on nofap and you relapse the next day doesn't mean that you're a loser, that you're a failure. Rather, when you do fail, you shouldn't just stay down, but you should get back up. Because a righteous man falls 7 times and he still gets back up. So just because you retained for 20 days and failed the next day doesn't mean you're a loser. Doesn't mean that all that progress was for nothing. You literally retained, you abstained from lust for 20 days. Like, you should congratulate yourself for that, my boy. Like, let's go. Like, hey, you're literally doing like better than like 99% of the people that are addicted to this content. So you should congratulate yourself. And you should use this as motivation to keep moving forward and to keep surpassing your limits. But hey, I'm going to keep growing, I'm going to keep flowing, and I'm going to keep going in Jesus' name. So I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. Stay blessed, stay wealthy, rebuke the kingdom of darkness, and embrace the kingdom of righteousness. And remember to keep surpassing your limits, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.